May you listen to your longing to be free. May the frames of your belonging be generous enough for your dreams. May you arise each day with a voice of blessing whispering in your heart. May you find a harmony between your soul and between your life. May the sanctuary of your soul never become haunted. May you know the eternal longing that lives at the heart of time. May there be kindness in your gaze when you look within. May you never place walls between the light and yourself. May you allow the beauty, may you allow the wild beauty of the invisible world to gather you, to mind you, and embrace you in belonging.
Thank you, choir, for that amazing kickoff, and welcome back for the new congregational year. So, thank you. Each week in our service, we set aside a special time to lift up concerns that are near and dear to our hearts and to share the joys that we may all be lifted. And due to the nature of our ritual today, which does comprise sort of the heart of today's worship, and due to the hopes that we might have been able to be outside, we are going to not light individual matter of the heart candles because there was not going to be a way for us to accurately make sure we were getting them from. Now we do have a Zoom. We weren't going to have a Zoom. We're rolling with it. As Robert says, we are open to what Spirit is moving in the moment, right? So I've composed a prayer, which is not super in the moment, but may also add a few things as we go. But we will, and if any matters of the heart were submitted this week, we will name them all and light candles for them next week. So keep those in your heart with you for now. Feel free to share interpersonally when we're mingling after the service. And right now, this morning, I ask you to prepare yourself for a moment of prayer and contemplation. Spirit of life, this morning we mourn. And this morning we rejoice. We are reminded again and again that these two things live within us always. We contain both, as we contain multitudes. Today, we mourn those lives lost 21 years ago on the attacks of September 11th, 2001. Today, we rejoice in our community and the joy it brings us and the communities that gave us comfort at that time. Today, we also mourn and remember all those lost to hate crimes, to despair and sadness and isolation in the ever-shifting world of the 21st century. So many started by that day 21 years ago. Today, we rejoice in the medicine that saves lives, the community organizations and congregations that connect people, and every person working for justice and dreaming of a more equitable world. We are each the repository of untold mourning and untold rejoicing. May we honor one another by giving grace to one another, by acknowledging all that we cannot know, and by celebrating each other's victories, no matter how small. May you be known. And in John O'Donohue's words from this morning's chalice lighting, may you allow the wild beauty of the invisible world to gather you, mind you, and embrace you in belonging. So may it be. Now we move into our annual ritual of water communion. Okay, so everybody who wants to participate should have a little bit of water. So we begin with the blessing. Water communion has been a tradition in many Unitarian Universalist congregations since around 1980, when two lay leaders in East Lansing, Michigan, decided they wanted a ritual that honored all aspects of the interconnected web of life. And our interconnected web reminds us of how very interdependent all of the parts of it are, right in the water cycle. Right now, we know that clean water is a human right and that too many people cannot access it. Right now, we know that flooding rivers and rising sea levels will continue to alter the course of life on this planet. Right now, parts of our world suffer from drought as the water cycle has shifted enough to deny life-giving water to some while sending an overabundance to others. We even acknowledge our own disappointment that water from the heavens has changed our plans today, even as we celebrate our ability to be together indoors. Right now, I'll ask you to join me in extending a hand towards the water on the table, and also you can also just do it over your own water in your hand if you want to. I'm going to share words of blessing written by my colleague, the Reverend Ronwa Hominy. There are a few times where there is a response, where you'll speak words back. Your response is, "This water is sacred." I will prompt you when the response is needed, and you'll start picking up on it. There are going to be some pauses. So, this water is sacred. It is made sacred by the many hands that have poured it with intention and love, the many stories that each drop contains, the many lives surrounding it in this unique moment, connected by commitment and faith. This water is sacred. May it continue to flow through this community with shining reflections of the unique gifts that flow through each of its members. This water is sacred. May it continue to nurture this community with sustaining hope that we journey together through ripples of growth and of change. This water is sacred. May it continue to bless this community with loving reminders of our collective responsibility to one another and the world. This water is sacred. May its ripples be a reminder that the changes and growth within this community bring movement and transformation to the world beyond our doors. This water is sacred. May its purity offer grace to our community and the willingness to forgive ourselves and one another when we make mistakes. This water is sacred. In moments when we are confused or uncertain, may it bring us clarity of purpose and commitment. This water is sacred. In moments when the reservoirs of hearts and spirits are drained by sorrow or pain, may it nourish them with the knowledge that we are surrounded by a deep and abundant love. This water is sacred. Thank you. I'll begin our ritual today by adding the water from last year's water communion. We keep a portion of the water from year to year to be a part of blessings that we give during child dedications, bridgings, and other rituals where a water blessing is wanted. We haven't had a lot of child dedications this year, but I will let you know that some of the water from last year I did take to Mary Toomey last year in the end of her life. And so if you ever have a thing that you are thinking about honoring with a special blessing, you may ask. It is symbolic, but I do keep some of the water each year from water communion. And we know that the cycle of water and the cycle of life will keep all this water flowing to sustain and support. So now I will pour last year's water into our communal container. I kept a goodly amount. You never know. Be prepared. Tesla suggested that I just leave one of the pitchers outside to catch the rainwater. That would have been kind of great. Okay. I could have had a symbolic portion of this water. So, and now the ritual. In an echo of the blessing that we give to children in Unitarian Universalist communities, I am now going to ask you to take the small cup of water that you have, and we're going to give ourselves symbolic water blessings right now. So if you feel comfortable with it, go ahead and dip a finger or two into that water so that you can bless. We're going to bless our heads, hearts, lips, and hands, okay? So first, hold the finger or fingers that you dipped in the water to your forehead. By this action, we bless our thoughts, that they may guide us in the knowledge of what is right and good, and that they may ground us in wisdom. And now if you touch those fingers to your lips or the mask near your lips, over your face and your mouth. By this action, we bless our speech, that it may be right and good, and that it may uphold all that we value. And now touch close to your heart. By this action, we bless all that we feel deeply, that we share and that we hold, and to remind ourselves to love deeply. And lastly, especially if your fingers have gotten a little dry, maybe dip them again and rub them together or rub them into the fingers of the other hand or into your palm. By this action, we bless our hands, that we might use our hands for right and good action and to serve others. We have blessed ourselves, we bless one another, as we know in community we are blessings to each other. And now that we have blessed ourselves with water, we will combine those blessings with the blessed water from the past to fill for our future. So as Gretchen will play some contemplative music, I'd like us to observe this ritual in silence as best we can and invite you each to come forward with the water in your cup and pour what remains into this larger vessel. I know some of you have brought larger amounts of water. If this vessel is getting too full, please pour it in to one of the other vessels. We'd like you to bring our blessed waters back together to combine our blessings. When you return to your seat, please pause in silence for others to complete the ritual.
Our reading today is Gitanjali 60 by Rabindranath Tagore. On the seashore of endless worlds, children meet. The infinite sky is motionless overhead, and the restless water is boisterous. On the seashore of endless worlds, the children meet with shouts and dances. They build their houses with sand, and they play with empty shells. With withered leaves, they weave their boats and smilingly float them on the vast deep. Children have their play on the seashore of worlds. They know not how to swim. They know not how to cast nets. Pearl fishers dive for pearls. Merchants sail in their ships, while children gather pebbles and scatter them again. They seek not for hidden treasures. They know not how to cast nets. The sea surges up with laughter, and pale gleams the smile of the sea beach. Death-dealing waves sing meaningless ballads to the children, even like a mother while rocking her baby's cradle. The sea plays with children, and pale gleams the smile of the sea beach. On the seashore of endless worlds, children meet. Tempest roams in the pathless sky. Ships are wrecked in the trackless water. Death is abroad, and children play. On the seashore of endless worlds is the great meeting of children.
On the seashore of endless worlds is the great meeting of children. It turns out that if you go looking for poems about water, you have an awful lot of poems to look through. Fortunately for me, going through a lot of poems is my idea of a good time. I selected today's reading a few weeks ago, and then by happenstance, on Friday morning, it was the daily selection on The Slowdown, which is a once daily, Monday through Friday podcast hosted by the current Poet Laureate of the United States, Ada Limon. Water is complicated. We've learned that from the news lately. In fact, it's precisely its complication that makes it such an effective symbol of life and of death, of guilt and of innocence, of labor and of rest, of good times and of bad times, of scarcity and of abundance. Consider this part of the reading again. They know not how to swim, they know not how to cast nets. Pearl fishers dive for pearls, merchants sail in their ships, while children gather pebbles and scatter them again. They seek not for hidden treasures, they know not how to cast nets. The sea surges up with laughter, and pale gleams the smile of the sea beach. Death-dealing waves sing meaningless ballads to the children, even like a mother while rocking her baby's cradle. The sea plays with children, and pale gleams the smile of the sea beach. Children, we are told, play beside the ocean, all unaware of its dangers, the places where people labor at the sea and where sustenance is hard fought for. And yet the sea itself is called laughing, death-dealing, and playful. The beach is smiling. Beaches everywhere around the world are the play places of the young and the young at heart. And that's not the only time that water draws us into a spirit of play. Splashing in a puddle on a rainy day, making rainbows with a garden hose when you're watering the flowers or washing a car, adding water to the paint or the clay that you're working with to change how you're creating with it. Water definitely invites us to play. And water can be terrifying. Floods, tidal waves, the quick burst of a thunderstorm, a stream overflowing its banks, to the millennia-long path of relentless change, carving out deep canyons and eroding earth by the ton. The right to clean drinking water and sanitation are vital to the well-being of every human, and as such were rightly acknowledged as human rights by the United Nations General Assembly. I will note that that body took this action on July 28, 2010. Of course, just because that was when a resolution was passed doesn't mean that clean water wasn't a human right before then. But it speaks volumes that it was only formally recognized as such by this esteemed international body so late in our history. The ubiquity of water may be part of the reason. Water is everywhere, even in places affected by drought. It is in the air, it is in the bodies of all living things, it is caught in substrates of rock beneath the surface of the earth. Maybe for some of us it feels a little out of sight and out of mind. We don't think about water that much, maybe. Maybe this is because of the happenstance and privilege of where we happen to live or the color of our skin. Ask the citizens of Flint, Michigan about potable water. Ask the citizens of Jackson, Mississippi. Ask millions of people living in other countries that do not have the resources that some of us here in the United States have. Water is everywhere, and sometimes we can certainly take it for granted. Try to go a single day without it and see how quickly you recognize its importance. See how loudly you sing its praises when clean, clear water is given to you when you are thirsty. Today, we enacted a ceremony that was started by Unitarian Universalists, yes, but specifically by two women lay leaders who craved ritual and also craved representation, to see more people who looked like them in the life of worship in their congregation. In the early 1980s, women and femme UU ministers were still in the minority. Over time, and with more consideration and more examples, more women felt they could find themselves a place at the table in this faith tradition. Like me. The author of our poem today, Rabindranath Tagore, was a true polymath who not only wrote and translated poetry, but published numerous novels, short stories, plays, letters, essays, memoirs, and criticism. He was also known for his musical compositions, and the Gitanjali poems, one of which we heard today, are also lyric compositions. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature for the Gitanjali compositions in 1913, the first non-European and the first lyricist to do so. He often wrote in Bengali and then translated his own work into English, which is the case with the poem that we heard today. Tagore spent part of his prodigious talents and much of his life fighting against the rigid caste system in India. He was a powerful figure of inclusion, of widening welcome, and of a more broad view of the world. It felt important to name that element of the water communion of water as symbol and metaphor, which is tied deeply to identity, to faith identity, to human identity, to the particular social location which we each occupy, and the circumstances of our life that affect each of our own relationships to water. As of this writing, a few days ago, the United States was in the rare position of having a tropical storm off its east and its west coasts. We are bracketed and defined, liberated and damaged by water. It is simply a part of what makes us human. Sure, as children on the shores of endless worlds shall meet. I love the idea of the endless worlds, of other beings in other places, on other planets, needing water, or their biological equivalent, as much as we do, and their children gathering on their shores. Sure, as children shall meet on the shore, that shore will continue to inspire and to shock. The sea will continue to give and to take. And we must continually open our welcome to new ideas, new ways of being, to no longer simply take water of any kind for granted. Our lives and the lives of those on every shore depend on it. Take the blessing of the water that we shared with you today. Take every gift and complication. Take with your water a consideration of time and of tide, of justice and of equity, of connection and of challenge. May the waters we name sacred today, may all waters named sacred by everyone across all millennia, bless you and all your own complications. So may it be.
And now we'll extinguish our chalice. Please join in extinguishing our chalice with the words that hopefully you are familiar with. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.